Welcome back to the Festival of Creative Operations 2022. Over to you, Amanda.
Welcome everyone to our virtual fireside chat. Thank you so much for being here today, and thanks to the team at Henry Stewart for putting on this great event. I'm Amanda Sung, VP of Customer Success for the US market here at Frontify. I hope you're enjoying today's sessions, and I'm really excited to be here because my marketing background has spanned across client, agency, and tech sides, including 5 years, most recently at Facebook Meta as a strategic partnerships lead. The topic of streamlining and scaling creative operations to build lighthouse brands has always been a consistent theme in my career. Now, before we get to today's guest, I want to quickly tell you a little bit about Frontify. Frontify is a cloud-based brand management software that combines brand guidelines, digital asset management, creative collaboration, and templating into one platform. We work with over 9,000 brands around the world, including Volkswagen, Ogilvy, and Vacasa. And speaking of Vacasa, I am very pleased to welcome our guest, Luke Perkins. Over his 20-year career, Luke has worked at some of the world's top advertising agencies, starting as a junior art director in the studio and working his way up to executive creative director. Along the way, Luke has created award-winning work for some of the world's most well-known brands, including Volkswagen, New Balance, Volvo, Columbia Sportswear, Cadillac, Puma, and Cliff Bar, just to name a few. Currently, Luke leads brand and creative for Vacasa, where he has a simple belief that a great vacation can be life-changing. Welcome, Luke. It's so nice to have you today.
Thank you for the amazing introduction. I'm so happy to be here.
So Luke, we are at the Festival of Creative Operations today, and there's a lot of talk about scaling creative teams and their work. What does it mean to you at Vacasa to scale your creative work, and how does that relate to scaling your brand?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think a lot of us probably on the call or this fireside chat today have the same problems that I run into. For me, it's always been about hitting above your weight. We run a really small creative team at Vacasa, but I think we show up in the marketplace. We show up at our company, kind of at a much larger scale. I think when a lot of people find out how many people actually work on the brand, they're pretty shocked by it. And I love that. I love, being nimble and small. And I think that it's really important to be flexible, as well. Our business is changing like a lot of businesses do often, and, creating a team that can really adapt to this high growth technology company has been really, really important, and we work on a lot of different projects. So everything from in-home signage and wayfinding and brand building elements, to corporate needs such as, communication decks and things like this, all the way up to television spots and out-of-home campaigns. So, it really spans the gamut of marketing. And the team that we've created can take on about, I'd say about 80–90% of it in-house. And then from there, we tap into outsourced resources. So, everything from copywriters, art directors, designers, illustrators, and then production companies gotten, capture content. And this strategy has really worked very, very well for us. And it's been pretty seamless to kind of move from our internal teams to external partners as well.
Cool. And when it comes to getting help from outside resources, as you just mentioned, what types of projects have worked best for you? And how are you able to get these external teams up to speed with the Vacasa brand?
Yeah, that's a good question. On a day-to-day basis, we really are dealing with a lot of vendors that say they're doing signage, and they might be doing signage for a large market that is just coming on board, and we need to change out, 800 homes, and they need to change branding from, one of the old brands into Vacasa branding. And so we work with a lot of vendors that are more localized, and it's been really great for us to easily send them a login to our brand center, our guidelines built on Frontify. And, they can almost immediately get the information they need about the branding, everything from, what logo they should use and colors they should pick out, all the way up to kind of like what our mission and vision is, which surprisingly enough can be really important for even a signage vendor to kind of understand, oh, this is the kind of brand they're building. I know what kind of materials I should use. And then it works on the other end too, working as high up as, large production companies for television commercials or even movie studios. It's easy again to send them those brand guidelines, and they have all the information they need, including digital assets they might need from photos and illustrations. And to create that self-service is really important, I think, to the brand to get people up to speed as fast as possible.
And I know that Vacasa recently underwent a brand refresh a little while ago. And at the beginning of that process, you decided to digitize your brand guidelines as opposed to having a printed brand book. Why did you make that decision? And how has that decision helped your team?
Yeah, that's right. We thought that going through a pandemic, trying to rebuild a team, creative team, and taking a company public wasn't enough. So we did a rebrand as well at the same time. I never said I was that smart, but I like to take on challenges. And I think one of the reasons we decided not to do a printed book or even a PDF digital version of the brand guidelines and brand book is it was really a reflection of our business, how fast it's changing, and also the world. We, pandemic world, we don't sit in the same spot. People really don't have desks. I didn't have anywhere to like drop a big juicy brand book off at. And I have this belief even before the pandemic that the best brands nowadays are almost more like fungus. They're always adapting than something that was like carved in stone, which is probably where traditionally I'm more used to having like, this is the brand, this is the way it's going to be for the next decade, don't touch it. And now I think the brands that can kind of move and grow with the challenges are ones that are feeling a little bit more modern. And that's definitely what we want in our brand, to really be this modern hospitality technology business to feel like something that's constantly moving and changing for every market and everything we get into. This is not meaning that I do not love like a big, lovely printed brand book. I mean, they're beautiful, they're fun to work on. It just didn't seem really the way forward for our challenges that we needed for our brand. The other thing it allowed us to do is, and we have done this a lot, is we set a real baseline, a real nice foundation with the first iteration of our guidelines. And from there, our goal has always been to build upon that. And so we've probably made our assets on our brand guidelines 4 or 5x what it was when we launched it a couple of years ago or 18 months ago. Everything from changing up the logo, for different out-of-home applications that we saw that we needed to adapt to adding more content, such as around our voice and adapting to different audiences that we have and different mediums we're going into. So that would have been really hard to do in a printed version or even a PDF version. And nothing is harder to try to build a consistent brand than if somebody has the old version of the brand that you're trying to talk about. Oh, that was version 1.4. We're on 1.6.2. That's a terrible conversation to have. And with the format that we set up, it's always up to date. So if you go to that website, you go to our brand center, it's up to date immediately.
Yeah, so you mentioned your Vacasa brand center, which you built using Frontify. What types of feedback have you received from people outside of your immediate team who are now able to have that greater access to your brand, that flexibility?
I think people are really excited about it. And I think the reason why is, again, we're all remote, and Vacasa is a company that spans North America into Canada, down to Mexico, we're in Belize and Costa Rica as well. The point of saying that is, people work not only in their time zones, but they might also be working on a project at 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast. And, it might be hard to get a hold of somebody that can help them. And it's self-service. And so once they know that tool is there, they know they can go there to, what is the logo I need to download to give to a vendor, or I need for myself, or, what CTA should I use in this email that I'm building? And they can really work on their timeline. And I think for the world that we're now working in, all of us in the pandemic, this idea of 9 to 5 isn't as much of a reality as it used to be. And this gives people the tools to go and help themselves to the brand. And it just really empowers them to get the brand across. Because I do believe that every one of the employees at Vacasa, like, that's what they want at the end of the day. They want to be like brand stewards, and they really want to show off their work as on brand as possible to get it across. And again, a tool like Frontify just allows them to do that on their own terms.
That's wonderful. And in the case study video that you recorded with us, which is available on our virtual booth, you talked about how you freed up time to focus on creative work. Do you have an idea for how much time you were able to free up? And what advice do you have for creative teams that are feeling overwhelmed and pressed for time?
Well, I think unfortunately we're probably always going to be in this world of feeling overwhelmed and pressed for time now. I don't have an exact, I wish I had some like exact numbers to give you on how much time I think it's freed up. What I think has really helped us out is, again, going back to that self-service. It's really allowed people in the organization to, and their vendors to go in there and get those assets they need, get the information they need. So the requests coming into us are less and less so. And then when they do, it's really easy just to say like, absolutely, we can help you out. Here's a link to all the questions you might have around that in, in the brand center, and they can help themselves. And if they need more answers, we can have a discussion. But that really frees up time for not only the creatives on the team to go off and solve larger problems maybe, or come up with new creative ideas, but it really allows our project managers and our producers and brand strategy to really focus on the jobs that they need to do, these larger projects that may be a little more unique to the business and some challenges we have, and not on the day-to-day, like, oh, can you send me that color hex code for the background of that image? It just kind of frees us up from all those like mundane, more mundane questions, which again, it just really, I found as myself as a creative leader and as a creative director, trying to give everybody a little bit of room to solve problems is one of my main goals. I call it the white space. I don't really know why I named it that, but it just gives people more of a chance to really sit back and really solve a creative problem with a creative solution. And you can't do that if you're being pestered for a downloadable link to a file somewhere.
Right. And you had just talked about this before, but in that same case study video, you had mentioned that it was important for everybody at Vacasa to be brand ambassadors or brand stewards. What type of brand ambassadors do you have at Vacasa, and how does your team empower them?
Yeah, this is a great question. Vacasa is an amazing business. We are the largest, and we're full service. So we care for each of our homeowners' homes, almost 40,000 of them across America in the markets I mentioned before. And to do that, we have field teams stretching from South Florida, as you can imagine, all the way up into Canada, the Pacific Northwest, and everywhere in between, more or less. And each one of those teams is, or field members is out there. They're our best brand ambassador. I think of them, they're the ones that possibly could be running into a guest, helping solve a problem or delivering some extra towels they needed. They're the ones that are maybe talking to homeowners. And so, it's really that one-on-one communication, more grassroots, that I think that the best brands are built. And, empowering them and making sure that they are really clear in how they can bring the mission and the vision and our values into their day-to-day work is really important on a kind of strategic level. And then on a more tactical level, we want to make sure, again, that they have access to all the information they might need to go out and potentially even create their own pieces if they need to. And everything down to, like, say, guidelines around, employee, what the uniform should look like or how they should speak to guests. This is all on our brand center through Frontify, and it's really beneficial to them to kind of, like, again, empower them to be the best brand ambassador, the best expression for the brand as possible.
Yeah, and you had mentioned earlier that Vacasa is a fast-growing company, and you're regularly entering new markets, which I can imagine makes it really challenging to maintain brand consistency as you're entering new markets. What advice would you give our audience members who are trying to maintain brand consistency, especially across multiple markets, globally, across multiple regions?
Yeah, it's one of the, again, traditionally, I came from a place starting this job that it was very much like, okay, this is the brand, nobody touch it. This is where it's going to look the same everywhere. And I still have a lot of strong beliefs around that. I think brand consistency is a really important aspect of any good brand. At the same time, Vacasa, I needed to learn really and recognize that we needed a brand that could also be flexible, that could really like flex in different ways. So we are consistent across markets now, which is really exciting. So if you go to a Vacasa in the Florida Panhandle area for a nice vacation, it's going to be a very, very similar experience than if you go to one, say, on Mount Hood, go skiing or hiking up in Oregon. And it's that consistency between those that's really important across all of our markets. At the same time, we needed to have that flexibility, that to know that the homes and the people that are going on vacations in these two different, very distinct markets are are very different. So when I looked at that challenge of how a brand could show up in two places and be consistent, I actually turned it into an opportunity to really show that we can be localized, that we can show up in a local way, whether that's through our signage or through how we speak even in those markets. But there can be like a level, like a red thread of consistency between all those things. So that as a guest, or as a homeowner that might own multiple homes, that you're going to get that level of care, you're going to get that level of expertise from Vacasa that you just can't get anywhere else. And so I think it's a really dynamic brand that we were starting to create here that, again, can be really flexible for each market we go into.
Yeah, I love that. And in addition to your brand refresh during the pandemic, you also acquired a new brand. What was the biggest challenge to incorporating that new brand, and how did you measure success?
Yeah, we did. We're a business that we do acquire brands often, and we did have a very large acquisition of a really great brand during that same time as the rebranding. Again, we take on a lot at once, it seems. And I think the biggest challenge is on two fronts. You have the very tactical challenge of bringing on, thousands of homes, thousands of homeowners, and assuring them that their home, their experience is going to be even better than it was before, and getting that message across. And also the physical rebranding of those spaces. How can we get our materials, our signage, our wayfinding out and deployed into those spaces? One of the interesting things that I've also had to learn about this business is very rarely do we have two homes that are alike. It's unlike a hotel that you have a footprint and the Marriott suite is the same everywhere you go. Our homes are all unique, so we have to be very flexible in how we adapt our signage and wayfinding and our brand to those homes. The other big thing that we wanted to tackle and make sure is to invite all those employees into our brand, and really make sure that they know that this brand is for them. That it's not, again, something that we're dictating down onto them, but how can we engage with them and make sure that they feel pride and ownership in joining the Vacasa brand and the Vacasa team? Because without that, we wouldn't have such a strong brand if not everybody's bought into it. And so it's really making sure that we create a brand and a brand architecture that people really feel that they want to be involved in.
And we're almost out of time already, but the title of today's welcome session was the evolution of the in-house creative team. And we touched upon a few topics today that I think speaks to this evolution. And what's the one thing going forward that you believe creative teams need to do to evolve?
Yeah, it's great. I can't believe we're almost out of time. This has been a lot of fun. I think making sure your brand is really accessible to the people that use it. I think that's one thing that I really try to do and really make it easy. We're all way too stretched too thin. We're all really too busy, and creating brand and brand tools that people can just access really quickly and make it easy as possible for them. They're more likely to use that than to go off and do their own thing. And I think that, again, I kind of mentioned this, but I think that employees and vendors and everybody want to do the right thing, and they want to show off their brand in the right way. And I think that that's really important, especially in the world that we can feel a little isolated working in home offices or stretch out across the country. And I think when you do that right, I think you can start to really come across as some of the top brands in the world, where you have these fans of the brand and the people that work for the brands like Apple's and Starbucks and Coca-Cola and Nike. They're almost like a walking, exclamation mark on the brand. Like they really tell it to everybody. And I think that that's really exciting. And you can get people as excited about this brand as you might be.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. But I want to thank you for joining me, Luke. And I want to thank everyone who joined us live for this session. If you have any questions for Luke, please feel free to reach out to him in the event portal. And if you have any questions about Frontify, or if you want to watch our full brand story video with Vacasa, visit our virtual booth in the exhibitor section. Thank you again for your time, and hope you enjoy the rest of today's sessions.